We'd been snooping around on Russian networks after Alexei learned about an unpatched firmware exploit in some older Cisco boxes. It turns out quite a few science labs over there still use that equipment. Lots of what we saw was boring. I don't read a word of Russian, and I'm deaf, so I can't understand it spoken either. But Alexei signed that it was all climate change data, petrochemical exploration, and something about water desalination. We were discouraged. We'd hoped to find something related to aliens or nuclear weapons. Right before we were about to call it a night, Alexei noticed that one of the labs we'd been traversing had an IP camera broadcasting to other addresses on the network. We couldn't believe how insecure these internal networks were. I clicked over to the camera and was delighted when a clear picture came up. There was even an icon in the corner telling me it was broadcasting sound. Alex indicated that he'd sign any audio that came through. On screen, a naked man sat on a wooden chair in a brightly lit room. He was reading a book. He flinched in momentary surprise when a deep voice came from the speaker in the camera. I felt the volume of it in my chest from the subwoofer of Alexei's computer. Alex signed what was said. "Go ahead, Pavel. Yaroslav, please stay seated." The screen flickered for a second, then nothing happened for a full 5 minutes. We thought something might have gone wrong with the video, but we saw Yaroslav flipping the pages of his book as he read. Then tiny trickles of blood began to ooze from his ears. Before he could react, his face burst. 3-foot stalactites of jagged bone exploded outward from the front of his skull. He didn't move for a moment. One eye dangled from its tattered optic nerve while the other, still intact, blinked over and over. His mouth was nothing more than shredded meat and pulped gums. A trifurcated tongue writhed and slapped against the spikes of bone like rudimentary tentacles. Finally, dropping his book, he stood up on unsteady legs, his hands reaching to touch the obscene growths. He pushed on them gently at first, then harder. His head moved with the force. That voice again. Alexei shook as he signed for me. "Keep running the 270 and introduce a 272 harmonic. Then raise the amplitude of the 272 until I tell you to stop." More spikes bloomed, this time from Yaroslav's feet, shins, and calves. The flesh disintegrated, and what remained below his knees were roughly spherical dandelion heads of jagged, ossified quills. He stumbled and fell face first, the bones jutting from his face, arresting his fall, momentarily catching him. He teetered, then went down. "You can turn it off, Pavel." The screen flickered again. A man wearing a heavy-duty ear protection entered the frame and walked toward the writhing form of Yaroslav. Then our connection to the network died. Alexei and I stared at the terminal which had replaced the video stream. We stared for a while. "What was that?" I signed. My throat felt lined with sandpaper and my stomach lurched with dread. Alex shook his head. A line of red about as thick as a human hair slipped out of his left ear. His eyes widened and his face disappeared as jagged gray blades erupted from the front and back of his head. He collapsed on the ground. I ran. That same night, maybe an hour or two later, his apartment building exploded from what was officially called a gas leak. The newspaper said 17 people died from the blast and subsequent fire. Alexei was listed among the dead. It's now been 3 days, and I don't know what to do. I can't go to the police because I can't dispute the official story and potentially implicate myself. Plus, someone is making a concerted effort to lie about the cause of his death. They were willing to murder 16 innocent people to cover it up. What will they do to me? I'm too afraid to leave my apartment, and I know posting this is going to get their attention, but I'm terrified and helpless. I need to know what to do. I need to escape, but I have no money to go anywhere. Help me. Please.